Please welcome Director and Founder, Benevolent AI, Ken Mulvany. Chairman, Esquel Group, Marjorie Yang. And third, U.S. Chief Technology Officer, Megan Smith.
I am back. Marge, talk to me about environmental sustainability in China at a time when the country faces extraordinary environmental difficulties. Your organization, Esquel, has committed itself from the farmers in the fields to the retail stores to transforming how a large corporation thinks about sustainability.
Well, I guess all I'm trying to do is to demonstrate that the tuition I paid at MIT is worth it. That I did learn something here that can be put to use. I think I'm in the textile business, so if we use our knowledge, we can reduce waste. By reducing waste, we're already conserving the environment. So, and if we can make money, then others will follow. So I thought that was that's a must do. Must help MIT to raise its tuition. Or at least justify.
Esquel Group is actually a very large organization. It may not be familiar to some of the Americans in the audience, but talk about some of the specific interventions you made to change the way you do business, because they're very innovative.
Okay, well, I guess when I first went back and joined the company was started just at the time of China's economic opening up. So I went, and my father's a textile chemist. And I went home and I told him, they said that the fish pond next to our factory, the dead fish is caused by us. And he said that shouldn't be. So he explained to me why it shouldn't be. So I thought, why are we not, well, how come the other people in the company just says, but it's a natural consequence because, boss, we're in the textile business. So I thought the key is, as you said, making the people, empowering the people, making them feel that they want to do something about it. Because they can, the knowledge is there. I also remember that once we have a small power plant, we had approved a budget to scrub the coal, but somehow they have not used the money. So I said, I found out that the plant manager has a daughter in the kindergarten. So I went to him and said, if you don't do anything, I am going to get the kindergarten to come and have a strike outside the power plant. I have learned over the years to try to get people to change the perception of what manufacturing is about. Chinese always believe that we're competitive because we can take pain. But why should we accept pain as a necessity of life? So with that, I started to try to get everybody to flip the way of thinking. Like my latest project, we have a small project in Guilin where we're going to put the canteen on the lake so that people can enjoy a nice view. After that, I think they will start to raise the level of expectation so that you don't expect that I have to suffer. I don't have to put up with the pain. So I think this is all part of trying to learn how to get people to have a higher expectation. And you can see in China today, well, the environment is so bad that it doesn't take any high standard. But still, there is a self-respect, and then an expectation, and then the knowledge. Because China has invested heavily in knowledge. Right now, our Minister of Environment has a PhD from Imperial College in environmental science. So there are a lot of people who have the capability of doing something. Then it's just to get everybody incentivized and get the companies to stop saying to government that you have to subsidize us. I think that's the reason why most companies will tell you that if I want to do anything to improve the environment, I'm going to lose money, is because if they hold on to that line, they're hoping that government will subsidize it. We're one of the few people who say we can start this whole exercise and we can make money from it. And I think that's something that I think we've managed to do.
Well, we'll talk a little more about doing well by doing good. But I wanted to ask a question for Ken. At a time when really smart folks like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking are worrying about the demonic power of artificial intelligence, you are the founder of Benevolent AI. And you've been asking, where can machine learning have a positive social impact in the world? I was particularly interested in hearing that you think that AI can speed and reduce the costs of drug development.
Certainly we're seeing that right now, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that we face as a society. It's very topical right now. Healthcare is extremely topical, and it has probably more to do with the cost of failure than anything else. It's not so much how much a drug costs to develop. It's not, I wouldn't say reasonable, but it's not completely unreasonable what that costs.
How much does it cost now? We used to talk about billion-dollar molecules in healthcare, and now it's what?
The old rule of thumb is that it cost $1 billion in 10 years, but it's nowhere near that, frankly. And if you look at the cost of maybe the top 10 R&D budget. So if you say, okay, this is how much you've spent on R&D, and this is how much you've produced in terms of new chemicals, new chemical entities. So it kind of excludes things like repurposing and so on and so forth. It's been just under $1 trillion over the last 10 years, and they've produced 139 drugs, new chemical entities. So that comes out to be about $6 billion per drug, and it's actually the cost of failure that is driving this. It's not the cost of developing it. And part of the problem is that biology is just incredibly complex. And unless you can hold in your consciousness everything that's involved, you can't make the right decisions. And that's what technology is incredibly good at doing, is holding that. And I think artificial intelligence, as part of that technology, is probably where we're certainly applying our efforts, and others are as well. And what we've seen certainly maybe in the last 3 or 4 years is an incredible condensing of the drug development pathway process. And what we're aiming to do is just bring down the cost of attrition, because we certainly need it.
Have there been disappointments in the application of machine learning and AI to healthcare? I saw that MD Anderson, which had committed to using IBM Watson to improve diagnostic outputs, had retreated from that. Is applying machine learning to AI harder in some spaces than others, and if so, why?
One of the first problems is looking at all the information that's out there. So if you look at PubMed, which is kind of the main place for publishing, you have 10,000 new publications every day. And within that, there are statements made in every sentence of every paragraph of every paper. And you need to extract that. And one of the first problems is have you extracted the right sentiment? Not even to determine whether that sentiment is correct or not, just are you extracting that? And then you need to relate that. And so you need to have a tremendous benchmark, a tremendous corpus of information in order to do that. And where organizations that are doing the same thing, I won't mention any names, it's that level of expertise that's necessary. It's the connection between the scientist and the computer scientist which matters, because in biology the processes are incredibly complex. The entities themselves, what a gene is, what a chemical is, there's tons of different ways to describe or to characterize what asprin is. Is it aspirin, is it acetylsalicylic acid, so on and so forth. but also the relationships that relate those entities is incredibly complex. So when you look at it compared to even large graphs like maybe Facebook, where this person knows this person knows this person, the entities are all the same. It's a person. The relationship between them is all the same. It's nodes. But in biology, it's nothing like that. And the more we understand it, the easier it's going to be for us to look at the diagnosis of disease, and probably more importantly, once you have the diagnosis, can you make the cure? Yes.
So Megan Smith is an old friend. Welcome back from government. Over her extraordinary career, Megan has done famous startups. She was involved in every interesting project at Google. And then she took on a problem which seemed much harder than applying machine learning to drug discovery or making a textile supply chain more efficient and sustainable. You try to use technology efficiently and intelligently in government. So what did you learn?
Many things. First off, our government, all of them around the world are full of so many talented people. One of the things that President Obama was doing, and actually President Trump continues, is the tech teams are not in government at the most senior levels. Now they are. So what we found in adding the CTO, this idea of, I call it TQ, like tech IQ. We have
technical quotient.
Tech quotient, yeah. So there's a tradition. If you looked at a resume of a lawyer or of economists or scientists, they might rotate in government, clerking and other things. We really weren't having that with our top tech leaders. So we worked on two areas. One is capacity building the government itself in two ways. One is in policy, TQ in the policy room. So for AI, having top AI experts actually leave the university, leave their corporate jobs, and come in and serve in a tour of duty in the policy roles together with extraordinary economists, lawyers, scientists, other characters. So the policy table is more complete, added share.
Yeah.
So you have that level of expertise. And we're seeing that around the world. And also in terms of capability to even build, like the United States Digital Service, Presidential Innovation Fellows, which are entrepreneurs in residence in government. So we brought over 500 people who built Amazon and Facebook and Google and Twitter to serve in a tour of duty, like military service, and make that a normal thing. The second bucket was capacity to build the American people. So that looked like computer science for all, which is now growing across the country. 9 out of 10 parents want coding taught in school. How do we make that true? It's really an all hands on deck, public-private partnership that's really accelerating in many states and many cities, exciting. And then for adults, tech hire. I was just in Appalachia with 35 coal miners graduating from Code Boot Camp. And 1,000 coal miners applied for that program. So now we have 70 cities that now work together to accelerate people in these 3-month courses. The employers are hiring. So that kind of work, makerspaces, Fab Lab, and having that capability around the country, and having us techies who build and act this way so that more people have a growth mindset that you're talking about approaching the problems today.
Megan, do American policymakers, legislators have sufficient TQ to even communicate with their tech teams when they're lawyers, by and large? It's not like the engineers who fill senior government in China.
Yeah, and so we're working very much to add that capability. Right. Congress now has some innovation fellows. There are a thin number of scientific and technical congressional representatives and senators, but not as many as we need. And so it's urgent because there's no policy that doesn't have some kind of digital tech associated with it, whether it's the AI policies that we worked on, and there were town hall meetings across the country that we did, which really brought a lot of thinking into government that wasn't there, open source policies, the tech ones, but also rural child poverty. Today in America, we feed 22 million children during the school year and 6 million in the summer. Because the way the policy requirements are, the systems aren't upgraded. But we could apply tech and digital and other things to meet the requirements of the law and feed all those hungry children. The
CTO reported into the Office of Science and Technology Policy.
Yeah, it reports actually to the president through an assistant president, but it's in OSTP.
When will the United States have a chief science advisor again?
Yeah, so right now, the teams under President Bush had about 70 folks. Under President Obama, around 125. Right now, the Office of Science and Technology Policy is about a dozen people. They're staffing up. There's a deputy CTO. There's people acting in science advisor. But it's quite urgent, and I would encourage everyone to really push on that and really consider serving. These are really important roles. And building the science and tech capabilities of the government is from the beginning. I showed you a coin from President Washington and Franklin. Liberty, the parent of science and industry, is the first American penny. And Washington speaks of science funding in the first inaugural address. So we just need to keep this capability, which we've always had. I mean, we're in the Wiesner building, which is President Kennedy's science advisor. So.
You and I care a lot about diversity, and not just for reasons of social justice, but for pragmatic reasons, that it makes for better organizations. Every year, Silicon Valley companies release annual diversity reports. And I guess I would put to you, how much value do those reports have when they consistently disappoint and the companies don't play the whole field?
Yeah, definitely playing our whole teams is important. I think the biggest challenge is that we've all inherited so much. I have a really cool graphic that might be worth bringing up if you guys want to see it. This is just, I love the internet. People do amazing things. This great group from, they're called Pudding now, but polygraph.cool/films. This is data just analyzing film. So when we watch TV, what are we inheriting around diversity itself? On the bottom, the thin layers there you see, that is men's or boys' lines in blue in children's television to girls' lines. So when you're a child, you learn men speak, women don't in the media landscape. In computer science, it's, I think, 15-1 computer science coders in children's TV to boys to girls. So we're propagandizing ourselves, and then we grow up and we make this media landscape. The blue is men's lines in 2000 films, women's lines in red, pink. There's a whole area under the curve. So we're learning that men speak, women don't, and that's the textbook you're reading, that's the election we've gone through. And over here, the lightweight blue and red is by age. So as men get older, more roles, more voice. As women get older, less roles, less voice. So none of us created this, we inherit it. But we have to use these really innovative tools that we have, data science, AI. It's so striking we're on stage with textiles and AI.
Yeah.
How many people realize that the very first algorithm in the history of humanity came from Ada Lovelace watching a textile machine and inventing coding and algorithms, right? A woman in the 1800s. So we need to know all the history.
So final question, the theme of the afternoon, and I'd like to begin with Marge. What would you like the world to look like in 2050, and how can Solve, working with technologists and open innovation, help achieve that?
I think by 2050, we would have solved climate change, and we've closed the wealth gap, and we have a lot of people who have a new way. Education by then will have changed completely, particularly K-12 education, just getting kids to embrace learning.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Ken, what world do you want? How can Solve help?
Well, I think that understanding the way that the human body works, the way that biologists think of mechanisms of disease, pathways, and so on and so forth, are somewhat analogous to an electrical diagram. And we understand some of them, and others we don't. But you can imagine this gigantic manual, this electrical diagram of how the human body works that can be used to basically cure everything.
Megan, I give you the last word. Inspire us.
Okay, I believe, and I love the solvers here and everybody who are solvers, the world is full of talent. So in a lot of ways, it's not so much to fix it, but who? Who's out there? And how do we kind of celebrate and come up underneath and accelerate these talented individuals and teams that have so much passion for the topics they're interested in, and get them to be confident around playing the whole orchestra? They could write, they could make movies, they could invent, they could code, they could, whatever it is, together. Because I think if you can include everyone, you could fix everything.
So does President Rife. Megan, Marge, Ken, thank you all very much.
Thank you.